My name is Sarla Anil Modi. School.
NMIMS. So we have with us the panel members, Professor Amita Vaidya, Director from School of Economics, Dr. Kaivan Mehta, School of Architecture. We have Dr. Durgambini Patel, and she's from School of Law. And we have Professor Dr. Vikas Bharadwaj from the School of Performing Arts. And so you know that we have a very eclectic set in the sense that we have a very different domain of education here. And which means that when we talk of issues, we hope that we will get some good insights as to the same learning, how it goes across in different schools. That's the objective. Okay, so you know that VC Chronicles, we've been reading them regularly every Monday. And some time ago, he mentioned that instead of what we learn, how we learn is important, right? And this has, if you trace back the history, this has started with an article in Harvard by Dr. Erica Anderson, who said that how we learn is now more important, and therefore learnability is more important. And even the industry has picked it up. Even the industry is talking about how we learn is important. And of course, recent technology trends and the way things have, issues have changed around us has also brought this fact that learnability and active learning is very important. So my first question to the panel members, and I will start with Professor Amita Vaidya, as to how do you practice, or rather how should we practice active learning in the classroom?
Okay, I think active learning has been practiced in our university, in all schools in some or the other way. Things like group discussions, debates, creating a movie for an economic topic, role play are some of the things that we do regularly in our school, and I'm sure other schools are doing the same or other ways of active learning. But I'd just like to highlight one experience that we have in our school for active learning, which has been a real game changer for us, and that is introducing games. So, pun intended. So it has been introducing games where we try and teach an economic law or an economic concept through games. And we have done this in various courses. And what we've realized is that the law is so well retained, and the learning is really retained well, and the concepts are so well clarified for the students. So this is our experience in active learning.
Thank you. I think in architecture, with the nature of the subject that it is, engaging with the world outside the campus has always been an integral part of architecture education. But I think in today's time, active learning becomes very important from two perspectives. I think in the last few decades or in the 20th century, one has moved from a broad generic education base to a more specialized education. And I think the way architecture profession itself has grown or developed, it becomes very important that as much as a student develops as a specialized skill, he or she also develops as a kind of a participant in the larger world. And actually active learning becomes very important because there is a vast gamut that you're trying to engage the student with in terms of learning skills, but also learning levels of how you engage the skill at different stakeholder levels. And in that sense, the mode of being within campus, being outside campus, but constantly in a phase where the student is in a moment of challenge at all points in time, which is one of the reasons why architecture education also becomes very pressurizing. But you're in a moment of challenge, and the teacher works more as a mentor to take you through that process of challenge. So creating those moments becomes a very important way for active learning. And in that sense, also look at the larger universe of work rather than simply the profession of architecture.
Thank you, and I thank everybody to give me this opportunity. Well, I would be specifically speaking, I will be generalizing and then speaking with regard to legal education. With regard to legal education, active learning has had got quite institutionalized. We have a concept like clinical legal education, and in School of Law we do have this kind of experiments which we keep doing and exposure the students have. Basically, we don't consider the sage of the stage, that the one who is on this stage is a sage, and that is called as narrative sickness. So it's not only the passive learning, but active learning, putting questions to students, giving daily life examples and asking them to locate where do you identify law, because law can be identified in every sphere of our daily life, teaching that kind of things. And in my school, we have started with, in the tutorials, we take them to different institutions and we tell them, we brief them about the law, and we tell them, now how would you resolve that issue through law as a legal expert. So clinical legal education, contextualizing the law, identification in the spaces which we have, and so practical orientation, not law in books merely, but law in action, what challenges we meet when we really want to implement this law. This goes with most of the social sciences, and particularly with law as a social sciences, we try to identify the practical or the field experience through which they learn, and we do have such kind of assignments and projects as a part of our ICA. Thank you.
I just want to mention that School of Performing Arts is such a different domain that it will be very interesting to know how they are trying active learning.
First of all, my pranams to everyone sitting here. Well, it is said in the field of music that if you really want to be a brilliant musician, not just the passion, but you have to have that complete madness, that every second how you can keep yourself involved in music and only music. Following this thought, sometimes it is very difficult following this concept, especially in the institutional training. It is very easy to follow this in the Guru Shishya Parampara. But with the blessing of Shri Lakshmi Narayan ji, we have tried some efforts in this direction. And accordingly, we have curated the curriculum and made the timetable where Riyaz, we have regular sessions based on the Riyaz. And honestly, it starts even from the morning hours. And apart from the classes, even in the timetable, there are 2 hours assigned on the regular basis where students have to be there and they have to attend the regularly Riyaz sessions. Then we have in-house performances where students get regularly opportunities to perform in presence of the faculties and the whole college. It's not just the performance. Let me tell you, the concept is that after performances, it has to be discussed in the class hour. Areas where still students are struggling, areas where they have really started doing well, and the areas where they are struggling, how they can be treated, the exercises they actually require to come out of the struggles. So accordingly, we have tried to curate the concept and it's doing well now.
Thank you. You know, NMIMS is a very popular university.
The volume is not there.
Volume is not there, but I have a good voice in any case. All right, so you know, NMIMS is a very popular university. So NMIMS is a very popular university, and not working.
It's working now.
Now is it work? It is working now, right? So okay. So what I wanted to say was that we do attract many students. You know, that way we have established ourselves, and Sir was speaking about how we started off such small, and now we are 17 schools, and each school has many students. So we do attract a wide variety range of students, which means that for the faculty, that is, they also need to carry, these students come with different learning potential. And for the faculty, it is important that they take along everybody and achieve learning up to a certain level. So this question also needs to be addressed, that how are we personalizing learning given that our students are of various kinds that are coming to our institute. So therefore, you know, I have this specific question for School of Performing Arts, because their course is such, how are they able to personalize it, personalize the learning for each student?
See, it's very important to have this understanding. If you really want the 100% result, you have to work on individuals. And in my school, as it's a music school, we have different experiences, cases like students. Some of them are coming from a rich musical background. They are fortunate that they could start their training from the very early age. And some of students are very basic, but they have that passion and they want to pursue their career in the field of music. So accordingly, we have to have some strategies that how we can have the central line in the class hour first, then we can give some extra time to the individuals, having this thought that the areas they are struggling and how actually we can help them. One more thing, we all know that music is more inclined to performance side. It's a performing art and it is based on skills. And honestly speaking, when you see, oh, this student is very brilliant, but he or she is actually going to have maximum pressure because expectation level is already very high. So this has been seen various times that musicians, when they have to be on stage, when they have to perform in front of audience, they have a kind of psychological pressure, anxiety, fear, and it is really seen that they are doing 70, 80, 90% at home while they are practicing, but when they are on stage, suddenly it goes down and they perform 50 and 60% only. So we face all these things. So how we can handle this? It's not just that if I say for 5, 10, 15 minutes continuously, please do this, stop thinking all these thoughts, do not respond. This is not going to work. It's momentary. Important thing is just face. And for that, we have arranged some things that we have regular performances, like every fortnight we have Baithaks, every month we have Nada expressions. So they get
nice. That's
So they get maximum opportunities to perform in the presence of the faculties and audience. So automatically they come out of all the psychological pleasures.
Yes, thank you so much. In fact, I would like to, Dr. Mehta to tell us what does he do in the School of Architecture.
Thanks. I think at the level of personalizing education process, there are about 2 to 3 things. One is that design education itself requires a certain kind of personal engagement between a mentor or a teacher and a student. But that is normally seen at the level of how you're imparting certain skills, knowledge, thinking systems, etc. But that allows for the opportunity also for mentors and teachers right from the first year especially to start understanding students who are performing or working at different levels, that may be speed level, thinking level, etc. However, on the other hand, in a more structured way, there are 2 things one has realized over a period of time. One is the possibility of changing environments. That as often that you change environments of learning, different students respond quite differently. So when you take students outside of the campus or you take them into another kind of a working model or a working group, there are students who suddenly sort of show promise of work or an interest. That has been one way to sort of open up different opportunities for the student to learn within the campus and outside the campus. And the third thing has been that as far as possible, teachers need to work out different kinds of assignments, even as sub-assignments within larger assignments, which allows for different students, again, to show the possibilities where they can align with a certain type of work. And they may not be able to align with certain types of work, but they learn the basics, but they will be able to show promise in the other. So how much do you sort of break up your ICA? And that's why I often say, ICA and all of these things sound like they are bureaucratic, but they are not bureaucratic. Actually, they allow us to put a process to some of these things.
A related question is that when you are talking of personalizing, a related question is, are you leveraging technology to personalize education? And, or otherwise, how are you leveraging technology to improve learning? And there, I think I would like to start with Professor Amit.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think NMIMS is known for adopting technology for all its processes, be it administrative or right from admission to the entire life cycle is through technology. So we are using technology in our teaching learning processes as well. We use movies, we use videos, we use, of course, smart boards, etc., to ensure that learning takes place. But also this personalizing has been a very important consideration. For slow learners, we give them videos to be able to catch up, etc. But one good thing that we found during the pandemic, and that's been very useful for me personally as well, when I was teaching a course and we used to take tests on, online tests, they gave up analytics about which question, how many have attempted well and how many have not attempted well. And that gave me a feedback in my own teaching process, which was not otherwise available to me, about how I could teach a particular module in what way and where were the knowledge gaps. So that was a good eye-opener for me too. Thank you.
Actually, it's true about one thing. The pandemic was distressing, and I don't think it was a flourishing moment like many people often put it out to be. But yes, there were some learning lessons we came out precisely because our environments got shifted. And I think technology not only came to an aid, but it was an option to see how we could work with it. So for example, I continue to teach at NMIMS itself, but earlier I was teaching at another university. I've been in the process of, for example, teaching a lot of experience-based learning, which is, say, for example, if I'm teaching an art and design course, 60% of the course is about visiting exhibitions, museums, art galleries, curators, studios, etc. Now, if I had already floated that course when the pandemic hit. So one had to sort of figure out how the interface, discover the whole range of material that museums and galleries put out, etc., So, but it was not simply using technology as a tool, but it became a learning for me itself that how you produce a different medium besides the straightforward lecturing or conversation medium. So one has completely now moved into annotated video playing. So you play expert lectures or you play sort of documentaries on artists or artists doing interviews, etc. But you keep annotating it in between, which also allows that, sometimes you can discuss very basic principles and you can scale up to a very, very difficult concept if a student appears ready for that in the classroom discussion. So you can scale what you bring into the classroom and how you pace it into the classroom. That became one, and I've continued with that tool. Although one goes back to the earlier things, you still visit museums, exhibitions, but the classroom space has got enhanced in that way. So that was one particular example to give for technology.
Thank you so much. Ma'am, how have you leveraged technology?
According to me, what I feel that any information pertaining to law now is available just at your fingertip. A feather touch and you have all that information. We have gone post-COVID, especially we are using so many digital devices for conducting online moot courts, ADRs and trial advocacy. So the information is there, access to information is there. But one thing what I find challenge is that even if the technology is a facilitator, as far as law is concerned, you need cognitive skills to process that information. What is happening with these students, they have a lot of information around them, but they get overconfident and they lack the skills of, cognitive skills of processing that information. Because there is a lot of information, there is a big data available. But to process that, identify, have a creative access to understand which is applicable, which is not applicable, how that creativeness, that also needs to be maintained along with using technology as a facilitator in gathering information and having access to justice. So because we lawyers say that AI cannot replace the mind of a lawyer, so I would look at it in a different way that there would be a digital divide, data privacy, and so many issues are concerned, and especially having the skill to process the existing information and apply to the given situation, and transformative learning opportunities, access to justice. It is increased learning experiences, but it should be also increasing knowledge and creativity which a lawyer must possess. So it comes with both, it's like a double edge. It comes with advantage. Also it needs training. We have, technology has been used very for internationalization of legal education, comparative study and so on. But human mind needs to be also not get a setback, but that also needs to be activated. This is what is my personal experience. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Technology has a very important role now in music education in both the processes. First, when you are in a learning process. Second, when you are ready and you have to showcase your talent to the outside world. And in some of the areas, I would say that it has made the process very smooth, friendly, and comparatively much easier. If I talk about the learning process, already we have some courses in the curriculum like Introduction to the Music Technology, Introduction to Music Production, Studio Essential, where students get to learn that if they have to compose, so they have to make some tracks, how to make tracks, how to record different voices, different sound from the different instruments, finally mix them, edit them, mixing is there. So they get to know how we can use maximum the technology and we can showcase the things to the outside world in a proper form. One interesting thing I would say that, as already madam said, that NMIMS is always there to adapt the best technology. In our school, in my college, we already have a production lab that is highly equipped and loaded with the advanced softwares like we have Ableton, Logic Pro, Sibelius. I would tell you one interesting thing. Suppose I am writing something or I have to notate something per agasa. I am a musician, so I will talk in that perspective. Suppose I am composing something and I write per agasa. It's simply, previously when we notate on the paper, it's simply a text per agasa. But there are certain softwares that has that tool that you notate something digitally, you play that tool and it will sound pa re ga sa. So you get to know how the outcome is coming. So immediately if you want, you can make the changes. Secondly, with the help of the technology, I would say that like we have an open access through YouTube channels and other social media platforms. It is very easy now that if I want to learn a rag, if I want to listen a rag, if I want to listen a particular music, a particular artist, I have an open access through YouTube and I can just explore those videos. And this process, first it's in your hand. Second, it's very easy that you can get new ideas about the rag because it has unlimited ideas. So it's very helpful. Now, if I talk about that, finally, after learning process, definitely you have to showcase your talent to the outside world. So how it's going to help? Previously, it was very difficult if you want to perform somewhere and you want to approach an organizer. It's not that easy. But now, as everyone is there on the social media, it's very easy that you can make some good recordings with good sound quality. Because if sound quality is not good, it's not going to touch your heart. So you can make some, just 1 second please. You can make some good recordings, then you can upload, you can share to the outside world. So it's very easier now comparatively to approach the outside world, and finally it works on your career.
Yes, true. And it's amazing as to how technology has been used very differently across the different domains. And yet all of them, because I did not expect School of Performing Arts to find technology useful. But there he had so many ways.
Sometimes we are dark horse.
Sometimes you're a dark horse. And you know, we spoke until now as to how learning is important and how active learning. We also spoke about how technology is used for learning. But you know, here we are assuming that the student is ready to learn. Correct? However, the times while they are changing, they are also changing in one more way. And here I would like to recall what Shah Rukh Khan told in a question answer session. He was asked by one of the fans when he was promoting the movie Pathan. One of the fans asked, "Sir, पढ़ाई में दिमाग नहीं लगता. Sorry, पढ़ाई में मन नहीं लगता. क्या करूं?" So Shah Rukh Khan said, you know, he's very witty. He said, तो फिर पढ़ाई में दिमाग लगा, शायद पढ़ पाएगा, मन तू romance के लिए रख ले. Our students come from very different problems into the classroom. While we are thinking how we can leverage active learning and technology, they are thinking how they can, you know, deal with their social problems, their personal problems, and their learning problems. So, you know, earlier, informally, when I was talking, Dr. Durgambini Patel, she said that for me, the most important thing is mental well-being of the student. That is the fundamental thing. I agree with her. For us, if the student has to be mindful in the class, if the student has to be free of distractions, then what can we do to improve the mental well-being of our students? Because that is what is going to convert into learning. So I also wanted to ask this to all my panel members. Maybe I should start with Dr. Durgambini Patel.
You know, there is a concept called VUCA, and legal profession is literally a VUCA one because there are so many, you can never win. You have to know that once you go, it is not that you will always be successful. And mental well-being is very important because it's a profession where you are in public space, you have lot many stakeholders, you will never get anybody that everybody is in favor of you. You have to meet controversies, you have to face failures. So while we teach them in such a way that, see, this can also be possible and this can also be possible. It's a matter of interpretation. And that's why it's not necessary that you succeed. In a profession, in any profession for that matter, I feel that failures and success, both are important and both are learning lessons. And we should equip them how to handle these kind of work pressures. And since it's a profession which is very important in nation building, and to maintain healthy interpersonal relations, be a human being, and ethics is a very important aspect, and if you train them in ethics, you bring mindfulness in the profession and in the teaching learning profession. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, I think for learning, an individual and their environment is very important. And today's world, the students are facing a lot of challenges as far as mental health is concerned. And we as educators need to address that and see how well they can cope with it. And I think in our educational institutions, what we do require is some kind of orientation to the students for coping mechanisms that the professionals can give them, as well as maybe sessions for faculty about how to identify these students if they are having problems and how to deal with them. I think that's also an important criteria for mental health as educators.
I think somewhere the problem also lies that there is a high pitch on desire and ambition. And I think without degrading the students' sort of direction towards desire and ambition, to convert it into empathy. And I think today the question of anyone's mental well-being or mindfulness is how you balance between the self and the many others that are outside the self. Luckily, architecture and the way one has been also looking at architecture, which is not just simply making iconic buildings, but you engage with a larger sense of the social, you engage with larger sense of the community. So many courses, I think, are good opportunities for us, and that's what I would encourage my teachers, that the engagement with community, the engagement with stakeholders is also a moment of reflecting on what it means to be a human being. What it means to be a human being within a larger collective of people, whether it is a citizen, whether it is a neighbor. I think these are very, very important issues. And I think rather than highlighting all the time, except in special cases we need to, I understand, but I think the broader approach to life, including technology, where a lot of unlearning or bad learning of technology also becomes necessary, as a way of connecting with other things rather than becoming completely insular. So I think these are some of the challenges and the possibilities that we can work with.
And in fact, earlier, Dr. Bhardwaj also mentioned as to how he uses the Baithak to reduce performance pressure, and as to how that he is using so that students can learn how to perform under pressure by frequency of practice and things like that. So, what we are facing, what we are seeing is different schools are really trying their way to improve the mental well-being of our students. Here, I also want to say, if there are any questions from the audience, once we finish, we will take any questions. If there are, please give them in writing to us. Here, I just want to add that, whatever learning that we spoke about mental well-being. In the end, learning has to happen. And therefore, the important thing is, how are we going to have assurance of learning? And there I would, want Professor Aditya Vaidya to say, because at the end, the learning not only needs to happen, but also we need to complete the loop of learning, and from there we need to bring it back into our teaching. How should we go about that?
I think the university and most schools have started with some stage of the assurance of learning. There are some schools which are in the early stages where they're identifying what are the course learning objectives, what are the program learning objectives. There are other schools which have done that and have mapped the ICAs with the course outcomes and the course learning objectives with the program learning objectives. There are other schools which have gone forward and have measured the course outcomes and whether those course outcomes have been achieved or not. And there are others who have completed the loop and seen what have they done, what is the action that you need to take before, if you haven't attained the course learning outcomes. So I guess there is a process of institutionalizing this, the assurance of learning process. But I would like here to give a kind of caution, because there are times where students have attained all the course learning outcomes apparently by the evaluation matrix, but unless and until we make our evaluation robust so that it actually measures the outcome they're supposed to measure, you may say that you attained those outcomes when actually, in fact, you haven't.
Absolutely. And so very often, are we really achieving the outcomes that we claim to have achieved? And there, if we look back at the question papers and we find that what has been mentioned as CO1 is CO1, but what has been mentioned as CO3 may actually end up being CO1, right? Professor Apte, he's also mentioning that. So the thing is that what we need to understand is during the, we were talking about the destiny of India is excellence. So I am sure that even the destiny of NMIMS is excellence, right? We are going to be there. It's in our destiny. The question is, how can we bring that across all the 17 schools? How can we institutionalize this process? And there, some of the schools like SOBA and the other two schools, we don't have campuses, right? But some of the schools have campuses, and the multi-campus coordination is also an important measure. We have traveled some ground on that in the last year. So we've implemented that. We have some experiences in that space. And that is also part of assurance of learning. So we must also, I would like to speak to your School of Law as to they practiced multi-campus coordination. Did they find it? What are the learnings, and did you experience any challenges there? So tell us about it.
Thank you, ma'am. I was asked to speak about the challenges, having 6 schools in different parts of India. And this is just my experience, without offense to anybody, because I think we can understand them and we can address them gracefully. So one of the challenges, because I think most of the schools are like maybe commerce also, we have large number of visiting professionals, visiting faculties. What happens with visiting faculties? We cannot engage them in everything, especially professionals. They're out throughout the day. It is so difficult to run after them and to see them, and the time management. But what it was in the last term, I mean, it's 1 year since we have been implementing. In first term, it was taking, it was a little slow, but it is now got somewhat structurized. So VFs, that is the visiting faculties, that is one of the issue, how we can engage them and how they can be very passionate and devote their constructive time. That is one of the challenges, finding suitable time for everybody to interact, because sometimes it would be late in the evening that all of them would find time. Sometimes I have, otherwise I was just telling her 110 subjects at a time, 58 subjects going on in 7 campuses. I was calculating if I have to sit for all multi-campus, I would require 350 hours in a term, but that's not possible. But I do in some subjects where I feel there are more visiting and senior faculty is not there. So what I feel is that the way the multi-campus, because I'm asked to speak on the challenges, some of them are very proactive, some are non-participatory, they just do the listening part of it. And there is a conflict like optimism and pessimism. Some would just talk about problems and problems. Then somebody has to intervene and say, okay, the problem is there, then what is the solution? So we should be more solution-oriented than the problem-oriented, and that is one thing. And then we also, all of us discuss that every campus has that, every school has that issue. There are some who would say, acha, material bhej do, PPT bhej do, and then some don't want to do it. And then I feel that maybe that's a copyright, so people don't want to share PPTs. Well, material should be same. I've also found the challenge is that in spite of having designated textbook in and especially with UG, you can experiment with the PG, but not UG designated book or textbook in the syllabus. Somebody else would be following something else. Then it is found later that how come you are not on the same page? Bringing everybody on the same page is really a challenge. Well, I would just say that without offense to anybody, there is a something like narcissist complex is there, the ego issues are there, clashes are there. They fear that, oh, I will be exposed, arey mujhe ye latest development pata nahi hai. Then the other would say, don't you know this development is there? So these kind of things are there. So not able to unite on the same on the same platform in the same manner because of some kind of issues. But if you have a good anchor, it is a great task for the deans to select an anchor who can really manage. And many a times, because one subject can be given only to one anchor, so it gets diversified. We may have eligible people, but we can't give every subject, more than one subject to others. And that is why, but in some subjects we have to give it to the visiting faculty. And sometimes course anchors are overbearing. Yes. There is a complaint that no, they are not ready to listen. Yes. So it's a complex issue, but by way of, she will tell you the solution, that we can overcome that. That's what it is there.
So, you know, I think when she was mentioning the challenges, some of you must be nodding silently to yourself. Yes, yes, there are challenges. At least somebody's talking about it. But every change is like that. Every change is a process of unlearning the old and relearning in a new way the new method. So challenges, whenever there is change, there is going to be a challenge. However, if we want to institutionalize, if all of us, if all the schools need to reach that destiny of excellence, then somehow we need to institutionalize it. Who should lead that effort? You know, VC was talking about team approach. One of his statements was, we need team approach. And so, multi-campus coordination is something that brings forth that team approach. And it also presents us, all of us at NMIMS, a unified academic community, which works with a collaborative approach. So, now that we've finished 1 year in MPC, how should we institutionalize this process? And what should we do going forward so that the whole MPC is more efficient and effective? So, Professor Amita Vaidya, please tell us how.
I'm not here to give you solutions, but I do want to talk about MPC. I completely agree with what Dr. Patel said, that there are a lot of problems. There are problems of visiting faculty not being very serious, so on and so forth. I'll just talk about 4 points. The first is, I feel that you need to tell the visiting faculty the reason, the purpose behind the multi-campus engagement. And they will realize they are the ones who are going to benefit from it. So if it percolates down from the dean, directors, associate deans to the visiting faculty every semester before they start the program, they know the purpose of the multi-campus program, and therefore they will have more at stake and they will be able to participate more. That is one. The second is to have a more collegial approach. Forget the hierarchical approach. I know there are free riders and there are people who are little overbearing. There are both sides. So let us have a collegial approach. And one way to do that across campuses, and I thought it worked, I did do it for that purpose, but we had a faculty development program on case study writing, where across campuses, they all engaged in this program for several weeks. And there was so much collegiality and there was so much camaraderie that it really overcame that problem, and in fact, it was much better, the multi-campus program. It was an offshoot which I didn't expect, but it was a completely different result that I got. The third thing is, I think we need to change the approach. We have institutionalized it, as you have asked, but people are looking at it, and especially course anchors are looking at it as a process of filling a form. If you change the approach from a process of filling a form to actually understanding how each one is handling a particular module in the syllabus, it is going to reap great benefits, not just for the newcomers, but for the people who have been teaching the same thing for donkey's years. You get a very fresh approach to a particular subject and everyone gains. And the fourth thing is that you need to make a very collaborative effort for the course right from the formation of the course outline by taking everybody's opinion and right till the very end when you have the term end paper. That's, I don't have a solution, but these are just some of the suggestions. I think going forward, you can make it more effective and more efficient. Thank you.
Also as assurance of learning, ma'am. It is a tool for assurance.
Yes, it is a part of the assurance of learning, because what does assurance of learning say? That all course outcomes have to be met. And the same degree is being done by every campus, and therefore all students have to meet those course outcomes.
So, is there any one concluding remark before I summarize? Is there any one concluding remark?
Just one point to say that as I am heading a music school under NMIMS, I would take this opportunity to invite you all. Please get some time in your routine life, in your busy schedules, and please visit my college, School of Performing Arts. Music is not only for a music learner or a music student. In fact, I tell you, आप सब में music अभी भी है. तो इसलिए I humbly request कि please get some time, visit my college. We have regular events like Nada Expression. Sometimes even many times I have had some discussion with VC sir, and we are trying to start some good event, annual event. But please get some time and sometime visit my college. I will really be honored with your presence, and then we can even invite you in the monthly concerts. बच्चों को सुनिए, उनको blessings दीजिए, क्योंकि music जब कोई नहीं होता और हम सब किसी ना किसी परेशानी में होते हैं, और परेशानी में साथ लोग बहुत कम होते हैं. म्यूज़िक, स्पिरिचुअलिटी ये बहुत बड़ा सपोर्टिंग टूल है. तो कैसे भी आप जुड़िए. आप अगर नहीं सीख रहे तो मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूँगा आप अपने घर में आप तैयार होइए ऑफिस के लिए, एक अच्छा सा रिकॉर्ड प्ले कर दीजिए. आप अपने ऊपर, अपने घर के अंदर, अपने बच्चों के ऊपर इसका बहुत पॉजिटिव इम्पैक्ट देखेंगे. तो प्लीज़ कभी आइए. थैंक यू.
Thank you. Now, I would just conclude that, what we discuss in teaching learning process all this time, and we were preparing for it. What I felt was, if these things are put in proper place, that will really encourage and create a very good path for innovative research and compliance of Bloom taxonomy. All that is possible if teaching learning is properly in place, and especially critical thinking and out of the box innovative thinking, that also would be fall in place. That is my concluding remarks to teaching and learning processes being soundly institutionalized.
Yeah, I'll mention two things. I'll take that liberty. One is, I think it has been something with architecture schools that they ran in the romantic notion of the ashram mode. We worked with very small numbers, a lot of individual attention. But the way world and life has moved on, that kind of institutional structure is no longer possible. Whether it is larger numbers, much more varied student understanding, engagement of teachers, all of that has changed, which has, I think, required structuring methods, assurance of learning, writing course structures, ICA methods, etc. And I think as an administrator of an education institution, the biggest challenge today is how do you balance between putting systems in place and yet keeping the quality of an ashram learning kind of a thing. And I think it is, and I believe that it is not something that can happen at an individual level, it has to happen at an institutional level. So it is my job in that sense to structure some of these balances in the school. And obviously teamwork is absolutely important, it won't happen without that. The second, I think, important thing is, second wala, wo to sub points the ma'am ka sub clause hota hai na. The second thing is that as you began saying that knowledge imparting is not the criteria today, it is learnability. So how do you move from, say, a fresh student to a graduating student, the stages of knowledge imparting, experience learning to critical thinking and choice making? I think structuring that journey and again putting structure in terms of systems is something that is very, very important. So these may sound as broad concepts, but I truly believe that they can be brought into working structure through the use of things like course structure writing, ICA, rubric matching, those kind of things. Thanks.
I agree with you completely, Kaivan, about institutionalizing this entire process of learning and teaching and driving it towards excellence. I know that NMIMS is on its path, but we have a long way to go. My only fear here is, and what I reiterated in the first case as well, is that while in the process of institutionalizing, we don't lose the purpose of the reason why we are doing it. So that is something that we have to be very careful about. That's, yes, exactly. So thank you. That's my concluding remark.
So while I do thank everybody, before that I just want to say that, if you notice, there were a lot of issues that came about, a lot of ideas here. So how do we bind those ideas? What are the themes that occurred in this conversation? So if you use that Lincoln and Guba's, what is that, thematic analysis, if I would take that approach, I see that there are three broad themes that are occurring in the conversation, how to drive teaching learning excellence. One of the theme is that environment can be a stimuli. Now, when we are saying environment as a stimuli, whether it is through the out-of-bound courses, the outside in courses that we were doing, or what VC was talking about, OCAC approach, and so that environment as a stimuli is very useful to increase learnability of the student. Okay. Second thing is, and also collaboration, peer collaboration, students collaborating with each other. So that environment is a stimuli, which means community, engaging the community to do that. Second thing is teacher as a stimuli, the faculty as a stimuli. And there, all the stuff that we were talking about as to how we are doing projects, active learning, how we are leveraging technology. And also one of the things that he mentioned is that pressure comes when there is too much pressure to perform. But if we start celebrating small achievements, and if we also learn to respect that failing in something is a cue to learn. Okay, so failure spurs learning, spurs change. So here we are saying, can we have small, constructive learning approaches? Permission to fail in small ways, performing small experiments, low-cost experiments of failure. So that, to my mind, is something that the teacher brings to the classroom. And the faculty is the stimuli. The faculty, when they appreciate, they are the stimuli. The third thing is internal stimuli of the student. So we as an institution have a lot of mechanisms to get the faculty to use various stimuli. VC Chronicles ensures that, and the way we discussed, and deans ensure that. But what about the students' internal motivation as a stimuli? That's the challenge that I don't think going forward we haven't yet mapped it. Going forward, we will need to map it. How do we increase the love for reading amongst our students? How do we make them more motivated? How do we get the students to take more self-driven learning? Because that creates learnability. So, that way, when we look at these three things, teacher as a stimuli, faculty as a stimuli, environment as a stimuli, and going forward, we should look at students' internal motivation as a stimuli so that we can have better student outcomes. So that's it. Thank you very much. I hope there are no questions. If there are questions, of course, we would like to take them. But otherwise, thank you very much for hearing us out, and good day to all of you.
Thank you so much, respected panelists.
Now we'll be moving ahead with the second panel discussion for the day. It is on the topic Strengthening Research Culture, a step in the direction of achieving research excellence. I would like to invite Chairperson and Moderator, Dr. Mayank Joshipura, Professor of Finance and Associate Dean, Research and PhD, School of Business Management, NMIMS University, Mumbai. The panelists for the same are Dr. Jayakumar, Dean, Sunandan Devatya School of Science, NMIMS University, Dr. Yogesh Kulkarni, Associate Dean, Shobhaben Pratapbhai Patel of Pharmacy and Technology Management, NMIMS University, Dr. Manish Kumar Tiwari, Assistant Professor, Chemical Engineering, Mukesh Patel School of Technology, Management and Engineering, NMIMS University, and Dr. Akshaya Desai, Assistant Professor, Kirit P. Mehta School of Law, NMIMS University.
Good afternoon, everyone, and congratulations to all of us on this 21st University Day. We know that our panel is between you and lunch, but we will probably address what we aim to address in terms of initiating the discussion on how to strengthen research culture, probably a step in the direction towards research excellence. I welcome each member of my panel, ladies and gentlemen. We will follow a slightly different structure. We'll follow maybe 4 small rounds, try to address 4 small points, and we hope that we'll be able to finish it in time. So let me begin by where we are and where we are sort of moving towards. I would see that the journey towards research excellence is probably the journey that we are taking. We have already achieved or made significant progress in achieving teaching and learning excellence. To achieve academic excellence for a multidisciplinarily large university like us, we need not only sort of disseminate knowledge, but we need to create knowledge as well. And when we achieve that research excellence, we'll probably be able to achieve this complete academic excellence, which is a combination of teaching and learning excellence and research excellence together. What's the role a culture would play in terms of our journey towards achieving research excellence? And culture people interpret and talk about very differently. For instance, one recent conversations, Dr. Bhatt mentioned that a test of a culture is how people behave in absence of the boss. I use a different test to see whether we have a good collaborative, collegial environment and culture or not. How much do we enjoy each other's success? Now, this is something which is absolutely important because, if we all succeed together, only then we can grow. And to that extent, this collegiality and collaboration is absolutely important. To open the discussion, I'll take a few minutes based on my experience, and then I'll invite my panelists. So I'll start by a few interesting lessons from Silicon Valley innovation culture documented by Soren Kaplan, the author of Experimental Intelligence. He identified 5 interesting points and say that explains this, or they are the cornerstone of the Silicon Valley culture. For most of us, of course, we know, but that's the harbinger of this entire IT revolution or this Facebook and everything that we have seen over the last few decades. And he identified 5 interesting points, saying, drive disruption with 10x thinking and moonshot thinking. I mean, you aim for sky and probably you will fall on Burj Khalifa, but then still you are quite high in that sense. And think big. Of course, you will have to act in small steps. Fall in love with problem and not the solutions. Now, this sounds slightly contradictory in the sense saying that we have this solution-oriented approach. We have some problem and what's the solution to fix it. They say the first focus on problem and then think about how to achieve that solution. Test and validate ideas. Don't fear. Fear of failure is probably the biggest hindrance in doing anything. Fall fast and succeed sooner. So if you were to fail or fail fast and succeed sooner, so if you were to fail small, learn from it and move on. And cultivate psychological safety. If everyone in an organization is secured and they are sort of allowed that space to experiment, and those small failures are probably not treated with harsh treatment, then probably people will be able to achieve great success. And that's what he noticed that happened in this great innovation journey that Silicon Valley has seen. In that context, Since I have been associated with this university for more than a decade, probably the second half of this 21 years journey, I would like to just start by what we have done in terms of building the research culture or strengthening research culture at our university, and then I'll seek your views. So to list down some of them rather than discussing, over last 5 years, to be specific, we have introduced incentives and course remissions through the research incentive and promotion policy. We have worked towards strengthening PhD program in terms of forming a committee across schools, looking at the curricular aspects, and we have now introduced the scholarships and fellowships to attract quality students. We have seed fund grants for faculty colleagues who want to sort of initiate small and then explore the larger projects. We have introduced at School of Business Management first this Thursday Research Seminar Series in June of 2019, where Dr. Bhatt was our dean at that point of time. And now it's, we are very happy to see it sort of spread across university, and we have been doing it for over 4 years. As we know that consistency in a way leads to excellence. So if we keep on following something over the years, it becomes habit as a part of what Dr. Bhatt called as cash, so that habit becomes a part of culture in that sense. We do academic writing workshops, we facilitate international and external collaboration. Many of our colleagues who are probably reluctant writers, and what we have been experimenting is, can they write newspaper articles, maybe technical notes. So probably we are in the process of relearning how to write. We did probably when we were 5 years old. This is slightly different on, say, how to relearn writing part of it. And of course, there are many other points that we have, but so we get recognition in Chronicle for the publication, etc. But I'll now invite the first round of opening remarks from my panelists, and I'll start with Dr. Jaikumar because I would treat him as an insider and an outsider to give a neutral perspective. I understand he sort of has just joined us as a dean of School of Science, and not from what you have witnessed maybe over your month-long association with your interaction with your colleagues, but I want to ask a broader question: that what do you think the role of research culture in driving research excellence, and what are the critical aspects of building a robust research ecosystem or culture for any school or a multidisciplinary large university like us, based on what you have experienced over the years?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Very good afternoon to all. This research culture or excellency towards research is a question which comes with time for any institute. That doesn't happen overnight, and it's a culture which has to be, it's been, discussion has been initiated, whether we call it as a Silicon Valley concept, or let me say, because I'm from School of Science, a CCMB concept, where Dr. Lalji was invited all the way to come to India and initiate a new technology of DNA fingerprinting in 1980s, where there was brain drain, lot of brain drain happening, and then we thought of pulling back the scientists from outside who have gone out and establishing the culture in India, the research culture to be established in India. From that times to what we have now, a GDP, where we are looking for a 5 trillion GDP in the country. So the state-of-art infrastructure has grown drastically. Along with that, the way we are looking at have also changed. So looking at the whole perspective now, the research excellency can be achieved in a team, and the set targets set for any school or interdisciplinary approach. So the R&D in silos has already closed. We have closed that era of working in silos on a particular topic, in silos based on the single expertise. That era is closed now. Now the era is of interdisciplinary research, more of research with collaborations, and looking at these local problems. So we need to identify our own problems. We cannot depend on the West or other countries to identify our problems and give solutions. So the research excellency comes with identifying our own problems and starting working on it. And looking at India's perspective about the funding or attracting the funding, because funding is a major concern for the research. So when you look at the GDP and our kind of funding in R&D sector, it is hardly 0.6%. And when other countries, it is, especially the countries which are doing good in R&D, research and development, it is more than 3% of their GDP, which is being invested in R&D sector. Having understood all this, now if we look at our research across the country, is it in terms of academic publications? Is it in terms of patents? Publications wise, we are in good position now in the last 2 years, 4th position across the globe. Patents wise, we are in 7th position across the globe. But can we look at our global innovation index? We are nowhere. Our global innovation index is far higher than the number of patents what we are filing. And of all the patents filed, 30,000 are only filed by the patents of Indian origin. And rest of the 40,000 are filed by the outsiders in Indian Patent Office. So just to give a clear understanding of what kind of research is happening is, we are driven now with academic research. And now the time or era has started where we need to look at our own problems and develop a culture of collaborative research where we talk with each other. The schools have to talk, mandate. And the technological changes which has been happening in the recent past is very quick. Previously, a technological change, it used to take at least a decade. And now it's 2 years. Within 2 years, we have change of technologies. And every year, you have a new cell phone model with new options. So when technologies are so rapid, the solutions also should be coming up very fast.
Thank you, Dr. Jaykumar, for your opening remarks. I'll come back to you. I work closely with Dr. Yogesh on several committees, and he himself is a prolific researcher. He has been associate dean, entrusted with responsibility of sort of pushing for research excellence and research culture at his school. So I just want to, and you have been associated with the university for quite some time. So while we are making significant progress on several, research fronts, how do you see, being given that your school is one of the, best research school in our university itself. So how to ensure that we have a research culture, what happens at your school, and probably, how do we ensure that those corridor conversations move towards discussing research rather than, of course, we all love teaching and course-related discussion, but can research also be the part of those conversations?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So it's very, you can say, important thing when we discuss research. And research is not related with only publications. Now, there are several angles when we talk about research. As sir mentioned, patents are there, publications are there, grants are there, collaborations are there, industry collaborations are there, consultancies are there. So we, as a researcher, we must take into account all these angles of research. It is not only confined to the publications. I'm very happy I'm associated with NMIMS since last 17 years. I have done my PhD from NMIMS only. So it's very nice to say that the research culture has been developed since inception of School of Pharmacy. So we are the first batch of PhD students of School of Pharmacy, and we could see this nice development in the area of research in pharmacy and of course in other schools of NMIMS. The first thing is the excellent infrastructure which is provided by the university since day one, and today only if we say something which is required for the research, the university will say yes, you can do it. So this type of freedom is the main thing which is responsible for development of this culture. And as we know, culture is not related with individual, culture is related with group of people and the society. So if this type of approach, if we follow, obviously we can see one day where we will have one Nobel laureate from our university.
So we had perspectives of dean and associate deans of two different schools. Of course, both of you are in your own right great research scholars, and being a faculty, you may have a different perspective as well on interaction with your colleagues, etc. So I'll start with Dr. Manish to just share, how do you see, the research culture that we have, and And to add to Dr. Yogesh what he said, we are not talking about we don't have a strong culture. We want talking about how to strengthen that further, because it's all about forward-looking approach. So your maybe the experiences, and then see how do you see what sort of can be done to strengthen that culture that we have.
Okay. I hope I'm audible. Very good afternoon to one and all, and thank you for giving this opportunity. First of all, I would like to thank our Dean, MPSTME, to giving me this opportunity. Like there are so many great researchers present in the MPSTME, and she has selected me based on my contribution that has been done from my side, and it's all because of the collaboration. As correctly pointed by Sir, so, I have been seeing this thing. So I have been associated with Mukesh Patel School of Technology Management Engineering from last 5.5 years. And I have seen there is a growth in the culture. But again, there are some basic steps that need to be taken before we can have the excellence, as correctly given by the different measures of the excellence. Whether we want a paper, whether we want a grant, whether we want to go for the, patents, publication, grants, etc., or is it the real-time problem or solution for that? We need to first think of that. It cannot be happen that you are achieving the real-time problem solving and achieving the publications and etc. It will only happen with respect to time. Once you achieve that particular goal, you're definitely going to achieve what you want as excellence. In terms of the Mukesh Patel, we actually are having a good culture, but still it is far away from the excellence. The main reason behind that, it is somewhere somehow the faculties are not motivated. As we there are changes that we are giving the incentives. We are giving them some kind of leverages, like, you can do the research. But again, they are actually, whenever I discuss with my friends, like, let's go and have some research. It's not like an overnight or something. They say, kyun karna hai? We are getting for what we are here. So it's like we need to give them something because of which they should get motivated. And I'm very thankful that we have actually at least increased our incentive amounts from 1 lakh to 2 lakh at least. And I feel that in future we'll have more money to come. Because, like I can say I had a meeting with VC sir last time, and he has given us a task to encourage 5 faculties. And I can assure you that I have already done that. And I can say that there is already a chain which is running. But again, it gets stuck when there is a senior faculty and they said ki, bhai apna to ho gaya, tum dekh lo apna. So something we need to think for them, because that will definitely going to give us what we need in terms of the publication, in terms of the funding, and definitely the collaboration. That is what. I have been doing a research work in terms of collaboration. And there is a small correction. I'm not now assistant professor in chemical engineering. I'm assistant professor in data science. So I have completed, or I'm doing my master's in data science so that I can teach the data science students. And it's only because I know how to collaborate with the faculties to understand the data as well as the chemical engineering. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manish. You can see we have a diverse panel in the sense that we have pharmacy and science. Engineering is more of applied science, if I may say. And then we have someone from social science as well. So, Dr. Akshay, there may be unique challenges in terms of both school level and how to approach it, and what is that it takes to sort of build a strong research culture, maybe in a stream like law, where you may have other opportunities in terms of professional opportunities as well.
Yes, sir. So actually, when we talk about legal field, what happens is usually people take admission for legal studies is to practice. And honestly speaking, there is a lot of money when you are actually a practicing lawyer or you're associated with a law firm. So when you talk about legal academics, firstly, there are very few people who would want to opt it by choice to go into legal academics. So that, I think, plays like a challenge to create good academicians in the legal fraternity. Now, talking about legal research, yes, to create this strong research ecosystem in the legal fraternity, what we can do is we can have very good collaborative kind of research, because law is such a field you can't ignore it. It is there everywhere. You take it economics, you take it science, or spoke about patents. So without having an IPR background, it can't happen. Recently, when this Google ad search, that issue was going on, when we click on accept all cookies. So initially, like 5-6 years ago, when we used to log into internet, we by default used to opt for, select all or reject all cookies, that kind of a thing. We never had an option of choosing it. Or actually, as customers, we should have that option. So when we are talking about Google and all these technological development, we're also talking about consumer protection at the same time. So if you talk about research in this field, so as a lawyer or as a legal researcher, you can definitely contribute to the consumer aspect to that particular issue, as well as from someone from data science who is kind of handling data. Now we have an act which is protecting everybody's privacy, and it definitely talks about data. We have a landmark judgment about Aadhaar card, like when government imposed it on us that you have to have an Aadhaar card. That thing, itself was challenged in the Supreme Court. And if we look at Supreme Court is also very proactive when it comes to technological development, when it comes to research. Thereby, it creates huge scope for, having research. You can give suggestions to the government. Thereby, we can have amazing policies. And even our chief guest, as he spoke, having good public policies can actually result into having a great nation in future. So, of course, research plays like a backbone of everything.
So thank you, Dr. Akshaya, because it leads me to my next round, and in the interest of time, I'm clubbing two separate questions that I had. We have become a reasonably large university, and but it still appears that maybe the stage of development could be different, but we work in silos when it comes to research, where if you see, the global top universities, they have a lot of multidisciplinary research that is happening. More so because we have some broader issues like climate change, sustainability, healthcare related challenges that we saw during COVID. So it's very unlike the way AI and machine learning sort of are taking center stage on all fields. It seems that there is a gap there maybe at our university. Also, we have this skewed distribution within school as well as across school in terms of research output. So while we have some prolific researchers doing an excellent job, at the same time, some of our colleagues may be reluctant writers. And we know we all are, associated with a great university. To that extent, people have excellent prowess and expertise in their own field. So what should we do in terms of doing two different things? One, of course, to promote multidisciplinary research, dealing with some larger, broader issues pertaining to society and environment. And second, what can be done to sort of nudge or encourage faculty colleagues or one school sort of mentoring other school in terms of building research output? And since Dr. Yogesh's school is doing a fantastic job on research front, including himself being one of the top researchers, I would start with you, Dr. Yogesh, on these two counts.
Yeah, thank you. First thing I would like to mention is science is nothing to do with competition. Science is dealing with contribution. So we should forget about all the competition which we do with respect to number of papers and grants and patents, etc., etc. So it's very important. We have different types of schools working in different areas. And now government is also coming up with many schemes in multidisciplinary areas. So we have to actually search, and we have to take guidance from some experts who have already worked in some multidisciplinary areas, because we have not worked. We have to accept it. And taking guidance from such peoples, or you can say scientists, and even I would like to say some government agencies, by directly talking to them, it will be a very helpful and beneficial step for us to get some good fundings. And government is of course interested in giving funds for multidisciplinary research instead of doing basic research. So that will be one of the important points.
And the second point which I want to know your perspective, because you probably have large number of faculty colleagues who are all research active, but many other schools may have a skewness in terms of distribution, that very few faculty colleagues. Of course, there are challenges, but then what can be done to sort of, help them out in terms of maybe from where to start, what are the low-hanging fruits where someone who is well established can help them?
Yeah. I can recollect, when we completed PhD and we started writing grants, of course, we are not at that time expert in writing grants. So we used to visit some good institutions like ICERS and IPERS, where they regularly conduct some workshop on, how to design research problems and write grants in different areas. So I think we should arrange some type of workshop focusing in that area school-wise, and inviting some scientists working in those areas, it will help. And even one important thing which we can do is, inviting some good journals editors. What are their expectations when we write papers, and which type of points they take into account when they reject papers or when they send papers for revision, etc. Because we send many papers to many journals, and nowadays the rejection rate is too high. So if we interact with some editors, even we can get some idea about writing, which is the initial thing in research.
So your take maybe on how to build the culture of multidisciplinary research where inter-school collaboration happens, and based on maybe your general experience, if you can share how to deal with a challenge if a small cohort is very research active in terms of faculty, but some others might be facing some challenges. So say, how can we sort of create an environment where this positive contagion can spread to everyone?
This is, first of all, it should be understood that by every faculty that research is a kind of flavor which brings immediate recognition more than being a normal teacher, academic teacher, just without only teaching. So that is first kind of motivation for every faculty to take up research is recognition. Beyond incentives, beyond money, everything, this is what, and the output of the research, which comes in terms of publications or patents, are value added to one's own CV. So a teacher grows, like say I'm teaching a course for 10 years, I'm teaching the same subject. But when I'm into research, the kind of knowledge I start gaining, and I distribute or I take it into the classroom in the teaching, my total teaching scenario changes when I'm a researcher added with a teacher. So having said this, it is important for every teacher to have the research attitude to develop this skill. Now, looking at the small cohorts, if a school is well established in research, I would say now it's time for us to establish center of excellences which are interdisciplinary. Looking at the technologies what we have. We need a cohort who are expert in AI/ML sitting with healthcare people. We need a cohort AI/ML sitting with law. So AI/ML has been into every domain now. But it is very tough for a domain specialist like a biologist or a physicist to adopt these technologies of AI/ML. So it is urgent need of the hour that we make some arrangements that faculty should have time to have a crosstalk, which generally doesn't happen in universities where the schedule is full fixed for the 6 days with academic calendar. So we need to provide some time for the faculty to sit down, which could also be a part of their academic calendar, which doesn't fit anywhere generally. So and a time slot to have to go clinicians, to go and talk to other scientists in the labs should also be a part of the calendar. That becomes, then all the faculty will be motivated to take up research. And the cohort which needs hand-holding, as Professor Yogesh said, it is best to have implementation of some FTP programs concentrated on research to teach or to learn, for the faculty to learn how to draft proposals and how to win. Now, those who have already been into the research, those who are getting the grants and high-impact publications, we need to identify that faculty and have them segregated for going with industries. They have to go to industries and demonstrate the outputs which are in terms of very high-impact publication. As just I heard today morning, a science publication, a Nature publication for a university of 21 years is really high applaudable. And that we need to carry now to the industry. So, and say that, yeah, this domain. So those people who are really doing good should be identified and should be nourished and nurtured to translate this into industries and be in contact with the specific industries where our research outputs are. So it's time for us to establish interdisciplinary center of excellences to nurture the people who have already achieved some excellence in research, and also look at the category of handholding those who are purely best academicians who have proved to be best, how we can convert them their part of time by providing in the academic calendar some time for research, understanding the research paradigm, like we have totally understood the academic paradigm, teaching paradigm, we need to understand the research paradigm also. And it is not, the old saying of research is not everybody's cup of tea is gone. Every faculty has that instinct of looking at things differently. And it is only the kind of attitude we need to develop to ask questions. Look at our own problem and look for a solution for this problem. And every teacher has this attitude because they want to inculcate this in the next generation. So I think it is time for us to look at these kind of center of excellences and kind of programs involving even social sciences, law schools, even say humanities should be involved now, and it is high time for us to have these kind of interdisciplinary centers which can have a few isolated faculty from every cohort and brought in to sit and discuss and nourish these center of excellencies.
So great to know your perspective. Coming back to Dr. Akshaya, picking up from what you mentioned earlier, I just was thinking about these challenges surrounding non-fungible tokens and consumer experiences and protection in metaverse. So in a way, there's a lot of scope for multidisciplinary research. And do you think, being a faculty, that we have a scope to sort of convince our colleagues, saying that this research, teaching and consulting probably it could become a virtuous cycle, as you kind of grow further. And any thoughts surrounding that?
Sure. In my opinion, multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary is the future of academics. Now we can't just have that approach that, okay, I am from humanities or I'm from the legal fraternity, so I'm only going to focus on my subject. So if my specialization is human rights or constitution, then I can't just say, okay, I will only focus on what are fundamental rights, what are directive principles. Because even constitution is becoming comparative in nature as to how one particular country is, involving other countries' perspective into their own laws. We saw, like in the LGBTQ judgment, how we were criticized at the global level, but we had our own perspective to have that particular judgment. Coming back to the question as to how we can involve our colleagues to get into the collaborative research, yes, that's a really good idea, because even in our school itself, we have almost 33 of us are there, and all of us have specialization in different fields. So that would be a great idea to collaborate. Even we have non-law faculties, like faculties from economics, faculties from business. So even there, a lot of research possibility is definitely there. Also, when we talk about international level, very few universities are aware that even at the international level, such as United Nations or International Court of Justice, at Netherlands. So even these organizations are calling for researchers from developing countries like India, and very few universities in India are actually focusing on that. So that way also we can have that international approach in expanding our research arenas.
Thank you. Dr. Manish, you just mentioned you are like also in a way moving towards data science, and which has application everywhere. And you could also mentor some of your colleagues to come up with publication. Do you see a case for probably if someone once publish, it becomes a habit, because once I go to the classroom, I can reach out to those 60 participants on what I convey. But if I can document the same, it becomes like a anyone can read at any time, and it enhances my reach in recognition itself. So any thoughts surrounding that is there a way to sort of push for not in a negative way, but say that encourage everyone to contribute in whichever way they can write?
It's a very easy task if you want to do that. The problem is that you need to identify their interest, and that is where we are lagging. we get a message, like we convey that, ki, let's publish a paper. It's not like way. We need to understand why they are not interested, because they are actually not a kind of person who has done the research. Once you start your research, you'll find out it's a kind of like, alcohol. You want more and more. But until unless you start it, it is not possible. So what I feel, how I do that, I ask my faculty member or colleagues, what is your interest? And there are chances that some part or some way they are not, aligning with my research. But what I ask them, let us combine. I give them my problem. I ask for their problem, like what kind of work you are working in. And based on that, we design actually, is there any way we can do a publication? I have been doing a research not only in the field of chemical engineering, data science, I am also doing the research in the field of biological thing. So this is why, because I understand what they need and they understand like how I can help them. So this is the one of the way that we can ask the, those who are not actually active. They are not active. The only reason which I feel is because they do not understand how to do that. And that is where, as a leader, as a, that mentor, there is a need to have a higher authorities or higher professionals that can work with them. And the only specific thing they have to ask, what is your interest? And let us build around that. And that is way only we can achieve.
That's a great perspective. That brings us to our last section. You can, along with that, give concluding remarks as well. We have done a lot in terms of, reviving and revamping our PhD program across schools. And we have sort of, this year, taken a major step in terms of offering scholarships and fellowships to potential desired candidates, because PhD program is probably one of the significant programs that contributes towards meaningful research to any university. So maybe, if you can share some perspective on how, the PhD program should look like in terms of any further, sort of steps that we can take to probably increase the productivity of our doctoral participants in terms of their, not publication only, but the research output and the quality of research, and anything else that you see that you want to share.
Yeah, looking at number of PhDs produced, again, these stats are all from the DST report of 2022. We are in third position with the number of PhDs produced across the globe, next to US and China. And out of these, total 60,000 plus PhDs being produced, so 30,000 are only in the technical engineering and technology, and very few, 10 to 12,000 coming out from sciences, and rest us from arts and humanities. But look at the kind of participation per million population. The number of researchers in India is just 250. While other countries, you have average of 7,000 to 10,000 persons per million of population. So the kind of attitude of students to participate is that culture lagging that. It's not only with the total PhD program, it's the attitude of the student to doing to the research kind of thing. If that is brought in basically in the academic perspective, then I think the PhD curriculum will be automatically changed. Now looking at the PhD now with reference to the Indian standards or overall PhD program, PhD has to be classified with reference to the purely with the technology and with the sciences. Sciences is more on hands-on, and accordingly the kind of infrastructure support and the timelines should be managed. Where with arts and sciences, humanities, the curriculum and design should be a little bit changed, adopted as per the global standards. The standards at global level have changed with respect to the domain, and it is not uniform across the domains for the PhD program. I think it is time for us also to adopt in India the PhD curriculum based on the domain specificities. Like sciences, the domain can be changed for the management, and for the arts and science, if it is changed, I think we'll be doing much better in terms of both quality and also quantity, number of PhDs being produced in comparison with our population. Thank you.
Dr. Yogesh, since we have been closely working on this, so your
majority points sir has covered. I want to add only one point. As far as PhD program is concerned, we should more focus on problems which are looked by industry. So we have to actively involve industries in PhD programs. So we should talk to industry, and even many industries, they are interested in giving funding for the research in which they are interested. We are also working on some projects where industry problems are being solved, and I have observed that students, they really enjoy working on such type of research project rather than working on a purely academic research and getting one publication. If they are involved in some projects which are directly solving some problems of industry, they feel good. So this angle we have to explore more in our PhD program also.
So that's a great perspective. Just this impact that we create through research, be it solving not only maybe industry, the larger problems of society and environment. So that is what Dr. Yogesh mentioned, and that anything that you might want to
Yes, I
add
just
with
want to
respect to our
add.
programs.
Yes, thank you, sir. I just want to add two points over here. I totally agree with my fellow panelists that there has to be firstly interdisciplinary approach and problem-solving approach. And as we know, in our society, there are a lot of problems. And when I have to talk about a PhD in law, so a big university like ours, we should make our intake procedure a little bit rigorous so that we get good students as our researchers. And another thing which probably can be a futuristic thing is encourage them to take topics which can get culminated into drafting a very good public policy, which will eventually be useful for the society. I always wanted to do this thing when I was doing my PhD, that I will probably, draft a law or maybe give suggestions to the government or contribute to a bill which will eventually, come into reality. So something like that.
Yeah, so
We should not.
policy implications
Yes,
is very
absolutely. So that can be the futuristic approach to look at it.
Dr.
Thank you.
Manish, and any final remarks in addition to our PhD program that we have?
Whatever, the points has been covered. The only one additional thing I would like to make here, like already we have said that we need a kind of a interdisciplinary and a multidisciplinary research. But the main problem what I found out that we should be working on is having a central kind of research center that through the NMIMS, any of the schools, any of the departments should be working. And the PhD student who's entering or who's getting involved or getting registered for any of the, maybe a School of Sciences, they can take the help of the School of Engineering like Mukesh Patel, or Mukesh Patel School, they can take the help of pharmaceuticals. And that is what we need at this particular moment, because to get the collaboration, to get the industrial involvement, we need to showcase our thing. We can showcase our thing on the paper, but when you go, that is a digital format, that is where they actually get attracted. And that is where I think we should be working more so that we can have the good PhD candidates coming in, because then they will understand what kind of research we are doing. And that will also attract the international collaboration, because you can ask the person from the abroad, ki, I want to work with them. And they will say, ki, okay, we will work. Give me some paper and then I will think. But if we have a good research website, showcase kind of thing, they can understand that, yeah, really we are doing something, and can we, collaborate or something like that.
So thank you, each of my panelists, for giving a very candid and frank perspective. Of course, there is no other way but to build academic network and collaborations, not across schools within the university, but national as well as international, because that's the only way. As they say that one can see further only by standing on the shoulders of giants. So while the old saying that the Rome was not built in a day, but probably technology was not available in those days, with the collaboration and collegial approach, if we can follow, we can probably achieve or move further in our research excellence journey faster than probably others would have taken time, So hope that will sort of take some of the learnings from, this panel discussion, and since policy makers or our decision makers of university all are here, hopefully we'll build a strong research culture, we'll strengthen it further, and that at some point of time will get reflected in our research output. And as Dr. Yogesh just mentioned, or wish rather, that we'll have some Nobel laureate coming out of our university. It should happen. It's just like That moonshot thing is all about it, right? What this Kaplan mentioned about Silicon Valley culture, that think big and then act small to move towards that. And that's something what we wish. Thank you everyone for taking your time and being patient with us. We knew that we were between you and lunch. Now we can proceed for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayank, for navigating this discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, respected panelists. With this, we come to an end of the formal program of the 21st Founders Day. We request all faculty members to please proceed for lunch and join us back at 2 p.m. for the cultural celebration of the Founders Day, organized by NUSC, where students from multiple colleges of NMIMS will be performing. Thank you so much.